Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency Vice President Lai Ching-te with a warm round of applause. Welcome, Vice President Lai. Thank you. Please take your seat. Once again, we are honored by the presence of Vice President Lai. And yesterday we had President Tsai, and today we have Vice President Lai. Thank you once again for your strong support for the Yushan Forum. And today we're also honored by the presence of many distinguished guests from around the world. Thank you once again for your participation. Thank you, Vice President. Please take your seat. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of the 2023 Yushan Forum, Start a New Blueprint for Asian Development. I'm today's MC, Betty Chen. Yesterday, we had fruitful discussions on a wide range of topics, including 7 years of achievement of Taiwan's new Southbound Policy, economic and trade collaboration, talent exchange, resource sharing, and Taiwan's warm power, regional connectivity, and how the world can jointly address the challenges from climate change and emerging technologies. Today, we will focus on the new blueprint for Asia's development, international cooperation, and how to create social prosperity with the civil society. We look forward to the fruitful discussions in today's forum. First of all, please welcome the host, Dr. Hsin-Huang Michael Hsiao, Chairman of Taiwan-Asia Exchange Foundation, to give us the remarks. Please.
The big sunshine is welcoming you all back to the second day of Yushan Forum. Good morning, Vice President Dr. Lai Ching-te, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. On behalf of Taiwan-Asia Exchange Foundation, TAEF, I welcome you again to the Yushan Forum. I am very delighted that you are here to participate in the second day of this forum, beginning with the highlight of the Prospect Asia Roundtable, PAR. During the past few years, this roundtable invites high-level representatives and global leaders to share their insights on the future of Asia and global issues. This morning, the theme will be strategizing Taiwan's new Southbound Policy and its Indo-Pacific relevance and connectivity. It is our great honor to invite Vice President of Taiwan, Dr. Lai Ching-te, to this Prospect Asia Roundtable to deliver his vision before the Roundtable. In the past few years, Vice President Lai Ching-te has taken time out of his very busy schedule to participate in the Yushan Forum. His speeches were deeply inspiring and of strategic importance. Thank you very much, Vice President Lai, for your constant support. Dr. Lai is a very well-known statesman and political figure in Taiwan. It is my pleasure to briefly introduce Vice President. Dr. Lai is the 15th Vice President of Republic of China, Taiwan. He received his bachelor degree from National Taiwan University and completed his post-bachelor program in medical science at National Cheng Kung University in Tainan. He has obtained a Master of Public Health at Harvard University. In 1998, Dr. Lai was elected as a legislator in Legislative Yuan of Taiwan, representing Tainan City. Later, Dr. Lai was elected as the mayor of Tainan City in year 2010 and to 2017 for 7 years executive year. Then he served as Taiwan's premier from 2017 to 2019 and was elected as vice president since 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us welcome Vice President Lai with a round of applause.
Chairman Michael Hsiao, Hsin-Huang Zizhen, international leaders, distinguished guests, media friends, good morning.
Good morning.
A warm welcome to you all at the Yushan Forum. I hope that through everyone's collective wisdom and brainstorming, we can make more advanced Asia and prosperous Asia. This year's theme, Start a New Blueprint for Asia Development, focuses on drafting a brand new blueprint for post-pandemic development as we work together to achieve inclusive and resilient growth in Asia. We all know that the Indo-Pacific region is one of the most important geopolitical areas in the 21st century. It is home to more than half of the world's population, 65% of the ocean, and 25% of land mass. It also contributes over 65% of the world's GDP, while driving two-thirds of global economic growth. In other words, as long as the Indo-Pacific region is stable and prosperous, the world will be stable and prosperous as well. When I attended Yushan Forum a few years ago, I mentioned Taiwan's position and role in the Indo-Pacific region and emphasized that our willingness to collaborate with like-minded partners, actively promoting democracy, peace, security, and prosperity. Achieving these goals requires implementing plans through dialogue, consensus building, and advancing mutually beneficial cooperation to realize our vision. Taiwan has always identified itself as a force for good, especially in recent years under President Tsai Ing-wen's leadership. We have upheld the spirit of Taiwan helps Asia, Asia helps Taiwan, and promoted the new Southbound Policy. The NSP initiative actively fosters positive interactions between Taiwan and neighboring partner countries, creating a virtuous cycle. In the healthcare field, for instance, Taiwan has trained over 1,300 local medical professionals in Southeast Asia and India. We share our healthcare expertise to provide direct care to people in need. Moreover, Taiwan has strengthened economic ties with NSP countries. Over the past 7 years, trade has increased by 88% and investments by 121%. This shows that Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific region are crucial partners, not just in trade, but also in promoting mutual prosperity and stability. I have always believed that when individuals have hope, the nation has hope. People are the core of all policies. In the future, NSP will continue to build a blueprint for mutual development in Taiwan and the region, while upholding a people-centric approach. We will actively pursue an innovative-driven vision for economic development, a social reform strategy focused on justice and sustainability, and a diplomatic strategy guided by democracy and peace. I also believe that alone we may go fast, but together we can go far. Faced with challenges such as the rise of authoritarianism around the world, the new post-pandemic era, transitioning to net zero and digitalization, no country can handle all this alone. Therefore, I look forward to us all working in unity to face these challenges. Let's contribute collectively to achieve inclusive and resilient goals in the new Asia. Your presence here today not only signifies unwavering support for Taiwan, but also showcases our shared commitment to democracy, peace, and prosperity. We have a saying in Taiwan, which means being firm as a mountain. When the world needs Taiwan, we will always be there, just like the enduring Jet Mountain. Taiwan will forever stand as everyone's most steadfast friend. Let's join hands and overcome obstacles together, fearlessly marching towards the guiding light of freedom, equality, and democracy. I wish you all a successful forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Lai, for your wonderful remarks. Thank you. As Vice President Lai is otherwise engaged, we would like to send him off now. Please give another warm round of applause to Vice President Lai. Thank you so much for attending today's Yushan Forum. And once again, thank you for your lasting support for our event. Thank you very much. As mentioned by the Vice President, we understand that now it's a difficult time for the world. But just like what he said, Taiwan helps Asia and Asia helps Taiwan. This is how we can form a virtuous cycle between Taiwan and around the world. And just like what he said as well, alone we go fast, but together we go far. It is vital for Taiwan to stand together with like-minded democracies around the world so that we can fight against the expansion of authoritarian regimes. And in addition, as mentioned by the Vice President and Chairman Michael Hsiao, the new Southbound Policy is a very important policy under President Tsai's administration. So today, please allow me to introduce that we are going to have a very special exhibition titled New Southbound Policy Special Exhibition Celebrating Partnerships and Friendship. From today at 10:30 until 3:30 in the afternoon at Zhimeiting, which is the room right next to us, the Glory Room 1, there is a special exhibition, and we would like to invite everyone to go there to have a look, where you can see the booths from the new Southbound countries, and you can enjoy food and drinks, and you can also have the chance to win prizes. I also want to remind you that you all have the booklet right here. So if you turn to the final page over here, you can see there are areas for you to collect the stamps. So each booth you visit, then you can get a stamp. If you complete the whole journey, then you can get a mysterious prize for you. So everyone is invited to go to the special exhibition, enjoy the food, the drinks, and also the games. We bet that you will definitely enjoy the wonderful atmosphere there. So once again, from 10:30 a.m. until 3:30 this afternoon, please stop by Glory Room 1 to have a look at the new Southbound Policy Special Exhibition. And moving on, we are going to enter the special session, that is session 5. Prospect Asia Roundtable on Taiwan's new Southbound Policy and Indo-Pacific strategies. The title is Synergy and Prospects. We are honored by the presence of Vice President Lai talking about the important policies of Taiwan and how we can forge stronger alliance with not just the new Southbound partners, but also democracies around the world. So for this session, we are also honored to have invited important speakers from around the world to talk about these important topics on synergy and prospects. So this is the Prospect Asia Roundtable. So for this session, we would like to welcome our moderator, His Excellency Tien Chung-kwang, Deputy Minister of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of China, Taiwan. So now we would like to welcome our moderator, Ambassador Tien. Deputy Minister Tien, please come up to the stage. And next, we would like to welcome our panelists. Please come up to the stage when your name is called. Please welcome Mr. Delfin Lorenzana, former Secretary of National Defense, the Philippines. Please. And next, we would like to welcome the Honorable Tim Groser, Chair of Groser and Associates, New Zealand. Welcome. And next, we would like to welcome the Honorable Sujeet Kumar, Member of Parliament of Rajya, Sabha, India. And next, please welcome Mr. Ivan Kanapathy, former Deputy Senior Director for Asian Affairs, U.S. White House's National Security Council. Welcome. Please. So we would like to invite the panelists to come up and take your seat on the stage. Thank you. Please take your seat. And now I would like to give the floor to our moderator, Deputy Minister Tien.
Well, Excellencies, honorable dignitaries, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. When I went in this morning in the foyer, I was being asking, how was your sleeping last night? My answer was, no, I did not sleep that well because my head is still spinning. I've been listening so many good speeches, powerful speeches, and good ideas, and particularly from the former Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, and the former Ambassador to the United Nations of the United States, Excellency Kelly Craft. So I did not have a good sleep. However, I had a very good footfall yesterday. Now let me open up the first roundtable of discussion. It is indeed my honor to moderate this Prospect Asia Roundtable. And today's discussion will focus on the prospects for Taiwan's new Southbound Policy, Indo-Pacific strategies, and the synergies to be developed between them. Let me start with a few words about Taiwan. Foreign relations for the Republic of China, Taiwan are underpinned by the principles of steadfast diplomacy, 踏实外交. This is an outlook that emphasizes pragmatism, the pursuit of mutual assistance for mutual benefit, and a commitment to peace and development. And it is an approach that has achieved fruitful results, helping Taiwan maintain sustainable partnership with diplomatic allies, broaden substantive relations with like-minded countries, and work with others to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. And since President Tsai took office in 2016, the new Southbound Policy has further boosted Taiwan's regional integration, expanding trade and investment relations, and deepening people-to-people exchanges. The initiative focused on the four main goals. First, economic and trade cooperation. Second, talent exchanges. Third, resources sharing. And fourth, regional integrations. And over the years, Taiwan has sought to align and integrate the new Southbound Policy with the Indo-Pacific strategies published by like-minded partners, both inside and outside of our region. And to promote further mutually beneficial integration, we also continue to seek support for Taiwan's succession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And for this roundtable discussion, we have a panel of distinguished international leaders who can share with us perspectives from the Philippines, New Zealand, India, and the United States. And let me briefly introduce each one of them. And first, as a Major General, Delfin Lorenzana. Major General Lorenzana is a retired Army general who served in the Philippines Army from 1973 to 2004, and as a Secretary of National Defense from 2016 to 2022. Major General Lorenzana graduated from the Philippines Military Academy. The next, Honorable Tim Groser, formerly served as the New Zealand's Minister of Trade from 2008 to 2015, then as an ambassador to the United States from 2016 to 2018. He was concurrently a member of New Zealand's parliamentarians from 2005 to 2015. Mr. Groser is a graduate of Victoria University of Wellington. Third, the Honorable Senator Sujeet Kumar. He is a member of the Indian Parliament representing Odisha in the Rajya Sabha. And since 2020, Mr. Kumar started his corporate career as a software engineer before shifting to the development sector, working with both the United Nations development programs and the World Economic Forum. Senator Kumar received his MBA from Oxford University, the said Business School, and his Master of Public Administration from Harvard Kennedy School. Finally, Mr. Ivan Kanapathy. From 2018 to 2021, he served on the White House National Security Council as a director for China, Taiwan, and Mongolia, and as a deputy senior director for Asian affairs. From 2014 to 2017, he worked at the American Institute in Taiwan, advising on the military and the security issues. He holds a Master of Arts in East Asia Security Studies from the Naval Postgraduate School. He graduated from Carnegie Mellon University, where he studied physics and economics. Ladies and gentlemen, with my introduction just completed, we now turn to today's discussion. I have a couple of questions for each and every panelist. Let me start with General Lorenzana. General Lorenzana, the Philippines is a strategically important power in the Indo-Pacific region and shares important ties with Taiwan. And under the leadership of the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the Philippines has continued to expand relations with other regional partners. At the same time, the United States has increased its security presence in the region. In February this year, under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, the United States and the Philippines agreed to increase the number of the Philippine military bases open to the U.S. forces from 5 to 9, including one across the Luzon Strait from Taiwan. And how do you view the roles of the Philippines and Taiwan in the Indo-Pacific region, and how should the Philippines balance trade and investment relation with China while enhancing strategic cooperation with the United States? General, please.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Chen. Yeah, the Philippines is actually navigating a very slippery slope in these relationships with our neighbors. China is one of our biggest trade partner. We export a lot and import a lot of things from China. And we also do trade with Taiwan. The United States is still our ally, the only ally that we have, military defense ally. And so when the Chinese aggressive stance in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea have increased in the past several years, I think the Philippines has thought of increasing the engagement with the U.S. military. And that is why recently, starting early this year, we have increased the number of camps that the U.S. military can use if and when there is a need for them to use these bases. And this is all to maintain peace and peace in the South China Sea, to ensure that this South Pacific is the South China Sea is open for navigation and for peaceful business. And also, we had to balance our relations with China. As I said a while ago, that we import a lot of things to China and we export a lot of things to China. And we are trying to have dialogue, constructive dialogue with the Chinese for the peaceful resolution of our disputes in the South China Sea.
Okay. I think lately you do have some issues in the maritime territorial issues. And I think a dialogue started with China. And what is the prospect of this dialogue?
Yeah, it's still being played. When the Chinese Coast Guard hit our resupply ship to one of the islets there in the South China Sea with water cannons, we protested. And recently they put buoys around Scarborough Shoal, which our Coast Guard also removed. And so there's actually an exchange of back and forth words between the Chinese and the Philippines on how to maintain the peace there. The Chinese has accused us of provocation in the South China Sea, and we tell them the same.
All right. I think we probably leave some of the question after all the panelists being spoken. Let me turn to Mr. Groser. New Zealand is a key regional actor. It has welcomed the United States Indo-Pacific strategy and expressed support for a free and open Indo-Pacific based on the regional stability and multilateral integration. In 2013, Taiwan and New Zealand, we signed the NZTAC agreement. That is a milestone agreement on economic cooperation that has liberalized and facilitated our bilateral trade and investment. With this in mind, I have a similar question for New Zealand. In terms of the strategy, how should New Zealand balance China's growing influence in the region while maintaining the rules-based international order with the United States and other regional allies and partners? Peace.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. Let me start by sort of painting a broader framework for your question. The theme for this session is a new blueprint, but as somebody who considers themselves a mild conservative in political terms, of course, I never believe you can write a new blueprint on a blank piece of paper. You have to start with a sound analysis of what has worked and served us all well in the past. And among those pillars of peace and prosperity has been a relatively open international trading system. Without this, the miracle that Taiwan has achieved would be unimaginable, and not just Taiwan. Right now, we have some very serious questions ahead of us on this matter. Before I went into politics, I was our country's chief trade negotiator, chairing many international trade agreement negotiations. And we used to have a metaphor which became a bit of a cliche a few years ago called the bicycle theory of international trade. The metaphor meaning, like a bicycle, you either move forward or you slip backwards. I was always a little suspicious of the metaphor because we've all seen trick cyclists who can keep the bike balanced on the spot. And that's been going on. There are many trick cyclists in Geneva for many years, but it's starting to slip backwards. It's vital that we limit the damage. People talk about FTAs all the time, nobody more than me. But of course, there's no FTA between Japan and the United States. There's no FTA between the European Union and the United States, and so on and so forth. About 70% of world trade rests on what French negotiators call the acquis. In English, it means literally the acquired, the set of commitments in the WTO. And while I am extremely pessimistic about the WTO moving forward, to go back to my bicycle theory, We've got to work together to avoid slipping backwards, because literally trillions of dollars of investment in global supply chains rest on this. And in the case of Taiwan, for political reasons, everybody in this room understands, you have only these two FTAs with these two small but very active countries, Singapore and New Zealand. The WTO system is absolutely of central importance to your huge economic success in the international trading system. So that's my first broad message. Any new blueprint has to involve a strong defense of the system. And I don't think the political outlook allows us to be optimistic short term, but we shall have to wait and see. Things change. And I always remember that great Lebanese-American intellectual Nasib Taleb, who wrote books with titles like Black Swans and Fooled by Randomness, who pointed out that it turns out that in life, the most important developments are predicted by almost nobody. So we should be humble and wait and watch while fighting to preserve the system that serves all our interests well. Now, turning from that overarching framework to TPP, which was started by New Zealand and Singapore, when you're small and have very little power, you have to be a little more agile than countries with large power. Finally, after years, I thought we had, the whole vehicle was designed by Singapore and New Zealand, and Giorgio and I have just written a chapter for a book on this that's going to be published in Singapore very soon. It was designed as a vehicle for the United States. As strong pro-Americans, we always wanted the United States to be the leader of Asia-Pacific economic integration. Okay, we've slightly tweaked or altered the name to Indo-Pacific, but the core of this has got a large overlap strategically. The footprints are very similar. And finally, when former USTR Mike Froman came to Auckland to sign the TPP agreement, I thought we had achieved our real objective, which was we have the United States underwriting security. We're all strong pro-Americans in that respect. But the complementary aspect of this, could the United States lead the economic integration? And then for reasons which there are many people in this room fully understand, the political consensus behind this started to erode on both the Democratic and the Republican side. I'm making no pejorative statement here when I say this, I'm stating a fact. And I was sitting on the floor of Congress at the invitation of Devin Nunes and Kevin Baker, be people who know these famous names, along with Joe Hockey, the Australian ambassador and former finance minister, watching the president withdraw formally from TPP and watching in particular Speaker Paul Ryan's face. It was quite a study, but I won't go into this since I'm speaking in public. So, to my pleasant surprise, I thought the thing would fall apart. But to my pleasant surprise, I was wrong. And the late Prime Minister Abe, a political leader whom I recall with enormous respect, actually stood up as the third largest economic power in the world and assumed leadership of the initiative. Japan, of course, to this day is still asking the United States to reconsider its position, and we in Australia and all the other countries strongly support that. I don't think this is politically possible right now for a set of reasons. But to recall Warren Buffett's great phrase, never bet against America, we should remember that if you look at the trade history of the United States, which I have very, very closely over decades, every major trade initiative, there isn't an inbuilt majority for trade in the United States. The administration of the day has to construct a coalition to support each major initiative. It isn't there automatically. And for those who think the United States cannot do trade at all, just reflect on this. The last time the US Congress was asked not to debate trade in rhetorical terms, but put their money on the table, i.e. vote. The USMCA, which was the successor agreement to the NAFTA, went through by a vote of literally 345 votes in favor to 41 against. So, done with clever politics, there is a way back for the United States to provide the leadership that only the United States can lead. I haven't got time to go into the IPEF issue, but that's a work in progress, and I think we support it. Almost all of the Americans, partners large and small, from Japan through to us, support it. The last chapter on this has yet to be written. In the meantime, what I say is we've got to preserve what we can of the open trading system, because it is actually part of the whole fabric of Taiwan's economic security, which is part of the overall security of Taiwan. I was going to tell you how we're going to handle China's and Taiwan's application, but I have a secret note inside my pocket, but unfortunately my time has run out, so I can't tell you what the answer is.
Thank you, sir. I think you would not be able to escape the question later on. I think they were going to ask you that question for sure. Thirdly, I do have the honor to serve as R.O.C. Taiwan representative to India for from 2013 to 2020. I was often being asked when I was in India, the first year, the Indian audience would ask me, Mr. Ambassador, how do you think about India? Frankly, I did not know India that much for the first year. So my response was, Acha. Acha in India, Hindi means okay, good. And the second year, I was asking the same questions in different occasions. My answer was, Bahut Acha. Very good. I still don't know India that much. And after my service, I was finally asked, before my departure, how do you think about India? I said, I fell in love with India. The reason for that, to me, I think India is a big, fat encyclopedia. You won't be able to finish reading it for your whole lifetime. But the thing is, you have to keep on reading it to explore the beauty and diversity of that nation. So I relay this question, my feeling to the Indian friends. I say, I don't know India that much. As ambassador, don't worry. I'm an Indian. I don't know India either. Now, when I was there, I observed firsthand how India is playing an increasing central role in world affairs and has strengthened its relations with the key partners in the Indo-Pacific. And over the years, Taiwan and India, we have also significantly strengthened our economic and cultural exchanges. The success of this last month's G20 summit in New Delhi once again demonstrated India's leadership and the diplomatic influence. Indeed, India is playing a very, very crucial role in the BRICS group, the Quad, G20, and throughout the global South. In your view, Senator, how can we further India and Taiwan's relationship, and how can India help Taiwan deepen its relationship with the new Southbound Policy partner countries in the years to come? Please.
Thank you, Minister Tien, for your love for India and for your bahut acha comments. Good morning. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the government and people of Taiwan for on the 7th anniversary of the new Southbound Policy. And I would also like to express my compliments and gratitude to Taiwan for being a very, very reliable and a responsible and trusted partner. We have seen that during the COVID-19 when Taiwan sent medical supplies, masks to many countries, including my own. So Taiwan is indeed a force for global good. And as Vice President Lai was saying, Asia for Taiwan and Taiwan for Asia. So thank you, Taiwan. With regards to your question, Minister Tien, about how India and Taiwan can come closer, particularly in the context of the NSP. Now you have your NSP, which I think is at the core of Taiwan's Indo-Pacific strategy. This was articulated by President Tsai yesterday as well during her inaugural address. And I think the NSP has significantly strengthened Taiwan's position globally, but certainly in the Indo-Pacific. It has brought a paradigm shift to Taiwan's Indo-Pacific strategy. We have our own policy frameworks, the Act East policy and the Sagar doctrine. Sagar is a Hindi/Sanskrit word for ocean, and it stands for, it's an acronym for security and growth for all in the region, in the Indian Ocean region. Now, both the new NSP of Taiwan and the Act East policy of India are premised on a free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. Both were born out of the need to engage with our neighbors, immediate neighbors and extended neighbors. Very, very complementary to each other, both the doctrine, both the policies, very, very synergetic, and I think it's a win-win. Now, Taiwan has already included India in this institutional framework. It has already included India as a foreign policy priority, India being one of the priority countries under the NSP. So I would, again, I don't speak on behalf of Government of India. I'm not a spokesperson of Government of India. This is my personal belief. And I think including Taiwan in India's Act East policy will significantly boost not only the Indo-Taiwan partnerships, but also bolster our own Indo-Pacific strategy. Because our Act East policy is inherent, is integral to our Indo-Pacific strategy, and it's at the heart of our eastward orientation. So I can't think of not having Taiwan in that policy. Now, the NSP speaks of the 4 priorities: regional connectivity, commerce and trade. We are steadily and surely increasing our bilateral trade, which is close to $10 billion now. We had few dozen Taiwanese companies in India. That number is steadily increasing. And I have always been of the view that $10 billion is a fraction of the potential of the 2 countries. I really wish that this will be $30 billion in the next 3-4 years. Talent exchange, you spoke of talent exchange, Minister Tien. Yesterday on a panel, I spoke about the G20 New Delhi Declaration, which was a stupendous success. And one of the key statements in the declaration was about the need to have a global skills map. Right? Prime Minister spoke about how the Indian youth population, and I did refer to the fact that we are the most youthful nation on earth. Half of our population is under 25. 2/3 of our population are under 35. So we are talking of 700 million people under 25. That's a huge, huge, huge human capital. That's a huge, source for global public good. Indian youth, Indian talent, Indian human capital can be a source for global public good. This is a key pillar of NSP. Regional connectivity. Again, I spoke about the Sagar doctrine, how this also is part of the Act East policy of India. Now, I think, the time is right. I firmly believe that the India-Taiwan partnership can be one of the most defining partnerships of the 21st century. I think the initial inhibition is now relegated to the background. I think there is newfound confidence both in Taiwan and in India that this partnership should be dehyphenated from the India-China equation. I think it's in the mutual interest of both India and Taiwan that the partnerships should be independent of our relationship with China. So I am very, very hopeful. In fact, I would like to quote Victor Hugo, who had said, "Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come." And I truly, truly believe that India-Taiwan friendship, cooperation, collaboration, partnership, whatever you call it, is truly an idea whose time has come.
Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to convey our appreciation through you to your government that your government has agreed for Taiwan to set up an office in Mumbai, which is the third office in India. And Mumbai is the largest city, a financial center. I think that movement will really encourage a lot of Taiwanese businessmen to invest in India. So thank you. Now, the last, but definitely not the least, I would like to ask Mr. Kanapathy. The U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy is based on a vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific that respects sovereignty, human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. As we speak, Beijing is not only maintaining but intensifying a campaign of intimidation and coercion against Taiwan. But as you know, Taiwan's national defense budget for 2024 is also due to be the largest ever, up to 3.5% on 2023, and representing around 2.5% of our GDP. How might the United States incorporate Taiwan into the Indo-Pacific strategy to deter military invasion and safeguarding the regional peace and stability? Please.
Chairman Hsiao, Deputy Minister Tien, thanks so much for hosting me, for convening such an illustrious group in this room, but certainly on the stage with me today. To answer your question, I'll step back and try to cast our Indo-Pacific strategy, at least as I understand it, and sort of align it and compare it to what you're doing with the new Southbound Policy, and what we can do together going forward. So it's sort of a preview, I guess, of my view of what's happening in policy circles in Washington, and having sort of coordinated Asia policy and China-Taiwan policy at the NSC, both during the Trump and Biden administrations, and working here in Taiwan before that, representing the US government. I was here when President Hsin-Huang was elected, and when she launched the new Southbound Policy, and when this TAEF was launched. So it's really exciting to be here and see what all has been accomplished. I can tell you that when I was involved in producing our Indo-Pacific strategy, the first one was an internal US document in 2018. And definitely the work being done here in the new Southbound Policy had a huge influence. Obviously, Prime Minister Abe and what he was doing had a huge influence on what would become our Indo-Pacific strategy, which again, the Biden administration has now published, updated and published in 2021. There were some major incidents since the new Southbound Policy and the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategies were launched that I think really prove that we're moving in the right direction, and maybe we even need to move faster. And these incidents obviously were the pandemic, a global pandemic, which really questioned our traditional just-in-time type of supply chains, particularly with respect to China. And then, of course, the war in Ukraine, which made us question, again, some of the globalization that we had leaned on and sort of ended up putting ourselves, as free and open countries anyway, in a somewhat vulnerable position. And so what's happening now in Washington, at least my view, is that when US officials talk about competing with China and the challenges that the CCP presents, we're talking very descriptively. So it's not prescriptive. In other words, I don't believe that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's actually just talking about the world as it is. And it's important that we have that honesty and we have these kinds of dialogues. The Trump administration, as folks know, was the first to really tackle the China challenge, both rhetorically and through substantive policy, starting, I would say, with the tariffs, but also adding a whole host of other measures. The Biden administration has done tremendous work with allies and partners in aligning them, bringing them on board a little more toward the US view of what this world looks like. And while those two things may sound different, they are two prongs of the same strategy. And I can tell you in the Trump administration, we had amazing diplomatic efforts led by folks like Ambassador Kelly Craft that laid the foundations for what you see now, you know, the fruits that are born in the Biden administration and the work with allies and partners. And in the Biden administration, they're very much continuing some of the, you might say, aggressive moves toward China, including some very restrictive export controls on advanced semiconductors that were rolled out 1 year ago. And so really the policy speed sometimes changes, I think, for US policy in the Indo-Pacific, but the direction is very consistent. And because the direction is consistent, I think we have some degree of predictability about the world we're moving toward. So I work a lot with the US business community now, having left government. And I want to tell you, like major technology companies, financial services, big banks, big industry associations, and I am happy to report that there is very high confidence in Taiwan. US business continues to want to invest here. They have confidence in the future of Taiwan, and they're right. It's just smart, I believe, very smart medium and long-term planning to be in Taiwan. I mean, this is the center of the world when it comes to microchip manufacturing. Nobody does it better. We all understand that, and the criticality of that to the world supply chains really can't be understated. And when we talk about, you know, the US, Japan, Germany, sort of wooing TSMC to invest in their countries, that does not mean that the United States wants to cut off Taiwan, abandon them, and sort of take the goods and run off. In fact, it means the opposite. It means the United States wants to be vested and have more collaboration and more interaction because the suppliers that come with those kinds of investments, you know, the saying goes that trade is like dating, but investment is like marriage. You're kind of stuck. And so just understanding the amount of interchange that then happens when TSMC builds a fab in our country or in Japan or in Germany means that we are even more integrated. And I believe that creates deterrence, that actually helps deterrence. I guess in conclusion, I would just say that in light of sort of the undeniable geopolitical trends, whether we like them or not, and I would encourage folks to talk about things as they are rather than as we wish them to be. Most of us in the US policy community see our features tied very much to the Indo-Pacific region. And in that vision, Taiwan plays such a crucial and irreplaceable role.
Thank you, sir. I think we have listened 4 dignitaries from different angles. One is from the military, one is from the trade, I think one is from the people, and one is from the strategist. It gave us a kind of a idea how this world is going to move on for the next couple of years. Now, I do have the honor to open up the floor for our participants to answer, to ask any question you have. Please raise your hand and identify yourself. And please make your question precise, short, and to whom the question is to ask. Now, let me have the first hand. Yes, please. It's coming, the microphone is coming.
I am Fortunato de la Peña from the Philippines. Yesterday I was in the panel and my co-panelist from India spoke something about coming up with a new policy in line with the Southbound Policy of Taiwan. May I know if our senator from India can enlighten us on that?
I think I think it was the DG of India Taipei Association ITA. You were on the same panel with him. And again, what I think he meant was that there could be an India policy as a subset of the new Southbound Policy. He articulated four pillars which could bind India and Taiwan. One, I think, was shared values. Both the countries are proud, vibrant democracies. We share values of freedom, human rights, freedom of speech, global order. So that binds India and Taiwan. Number one, shared values. Number two, I think he spoke about the alignment of our interest in cybersecurity, in climate action, in confronting a common bully, if I may use that word. So alignment of interest is certainly there, both in the neighborhood and in the larger Indo-Pacific. Third, I think he spoke about complementarities, and I also spoke about it in the talent exchange panel. You know, IT. Our Prime Minister has called IT not information technology but India-Taiwan. So our prowess in the software domain and Taiwan's unique expertise in high tech and hardware makes both India and Taiwan very, very complementary to each other. And finally, I think he spoke about shared vision for the future. I think both our futures are intertwined. So that was, I think, the framework he referred to when he spoke of a India policy, India-specific policy under the umbrella of the new Southbound Policy.
Thank you, Kumarji. May I have the second question? Yes, please.
Morning, sir. My name is Vice Admiral Chauhan. I am the Director General of the National Maritime Foundation in India. And of course, I am a great fan of yours. My question is really to anybody, including you, sir. We have heard a great deal, and we are all aware of Taiwan's expertise in advanced chip manufacture. However, one of the main ingredients that you need for chip manufacturing is neon gas. Now, Taiwan used to import neon gas across from Ukraine prior to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And then Russia began to sell neon gas to China, which put a markup on it, and now Taiwan is buying neon gas from China. Now, this is faintly ludicrous, because the third largest or second largest producer of neon gas is India. And we aren't using the neon gas, we're just allowing it to escape back into the atmosphere. And neon gas is a byproduct of steel manufacturing as well as petroleum distillation. So my question is that since we've heard a great deal about Taiwan's criticality in the economic landscape based upon advanced chips, why, or is there, if not, why is there, if not, then why is there not, a strong thrust between India and Taiwan in the import of neon gas at pretty much throwaway prices? And there's a real important side benefit from that, and that is that trade between India and Taiwan in maritime terms is actually negligible, because we are often talking about value of trade, but maritime trade is not based on value, it's based on volume. And while all the advanced chips can come in one container which goes in one aircraft, neon gas cannot go by air. It has to go in pressurized bottles by sea. And therefore, we will kickstart a maritime trade endeavor between India and Taiwan. So may I seek some clarification as to whether this resonates at all, and if not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you, Chouhan-ji. I think yesterday you talked with me and this neon gas. I have to say, I'm sorry for my very ignorance about this neon gas. I don't even understand the gas. I cook my rice, where they're coming from, let alone this neon gas. However, I think you made a very, very good point. That is probably a very important commodity for the industrial, if not for military use. But I promise you, I will relay this question to the department which is in charge of this kind of natural resources. But if you do have a very, very abundance of neon gas, and transportation is not the problem, and there's no other restriction, which I don't know. Probably I have to check with Groser. You are a trade specialist. Can you help me out with this, please?
Well, thank you, Minister. I would just say, while of course I don't have a technology background, so I don't know whether there would be different specific characteristics of neon gas that would need to be taken into account. But broadly, I think what we have to recognize is the following. This extraordinary development in the geopolitical system of Russia invading Western Ukraine, upsetting the single most important principle of maintenance of peace in Europe over the last 75 years, will take some years to work through in terms of its implications in purely commercial areas like this. I mean, we could not simply substitute Russian gas into, say, Germany just with a snap of the fingers. So if there is a commercial case for, instead of India burning its neon gas, I can be 100% certain that very smart Taiwanese business people are aware of this and are working on it, but this will take time. And I think one could make that observation right across a whole range of commodities. I think particularly uranium, because my own political sense is there is the clear signs of a strategic rethink of the role of nuclear energy going on. And most uranium is in countries where many Western countries would consider not exactly reliable countries in terms of their geopolitical status. This is why while I have got grave misgivings about taking friendshoring and reshoring and inshoring too far because of the economic costs, I do not dismiss it in terms of getting greater resilience in supply chains. So I'm going to make a guess that I think will be not accurate precisely, but broadly accurate, that we will see new supply chains coming into Taiwan to substitute for neon gas from traditional suppliers, but this will take time to build the infrastructure necessary.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I definitely would give you an answer about this when I do the survey internally. Let me have third question from this side, please. The lady over there, please bring her the microphone.
Thank you, Chair. This is Susan Chang from Food and Fertilizer Technology Center. And I used to be posted in Geneva for our WTO mission in Geneva. So I have the honor to join the WTO agriculture negotiation during the Doha round when Ambassador Tim Groser was the chair. And so my question is that, as you said, WTO, the multilateral trading system, is very important. However, with the FTA, RTA proliferated, I think Taiwan cannot join much of the meaningful FTA, so it's become a disadvantage. So I would like to seek the advice from Ambassador Groser as well as our Mr. Kanapathy from the United States to give us advice. How can we advance our joining into the CPTPP as well as the negotiation, I mean the trade and negotiation with the U.S.? What would be your advice?
I think Kanapathy, you go right first.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks so much for the question. And I'm not going to get in a debate with my colleague, Mr. Groser. I don't think, but I'll throw this something out there that's interesting fact, I guess. Last year, the U.S. and China had more trade between them than at any time in history. I think they hit record numbers. I believe that fact, while true, doesn't really tell the true story. And I think it's important to understand that, in 2017, so before the trade war started, all the goods that we imported in the United States, more than 21% of them came from China. Since 2017, there's been a steady decrease in that proportion of about a percentage point a year, and we're now hovering around 15%. And the beneficiaries of that have predominantly been Southeast Asia and Taiwan, I think Mexico too, but essentially a friendshoring, nearshoring type of result. And, again, not to poo-poo the TPP or the CPTPP, but I think geopolitically, that is actually what we were going for, right? We are diversifying our imports away from China and towards South Asia, Southeast Asia. It is happening, and I think, quite frankly, the tariffs contribute to that, whether we like them or not in principle. So I think that's important to understand, that market access can be gained in other ways other than simply saying, I need a free trade agreement, with those types of clauses in them. And Mr. Gross is completely right. It's just in the United States, politically, it's hard to get there, if not impossible, at this time. And so we need to look for other sort of creative ways to get to the goals that we're seeking, which again, they're happening right before our eyes. It's happening. We are diversifying away. With obviously Taiwan, you have the 21st Century Trade Initiative, which I think is getting at all the other sort of trade irritants that have happened between the U.S. and Taiwan. I think it sends a good political signal, allows Taiwan hopefully to outreach to other countries. So we'll see. I think actually that U.S. policy is moving things in the right track, and I hope that folks in Taiwan also see that.
No, Mr. Groser.
Well, I completely agree with that set of observations. I would just add, this is a process which will not be determined solely, of course, by politics. It will also be determined by natural economic change and commercial decisions. So I remember, was it Jeff Immelt, the head of GE in about 2015? Well, whoever was the CEO of GE at that time. I remember him making a speech at an event I was present at when he said, the idea of just sourcing from China is yesterday's business model. And so that large American and European corporations were already moving in this direction of diversifying away from China for well before the situation turned toxic between the United States and China. So it's not separate from that process, it's augmenting that process. And at the root of this is a natural economic phenomenon. I mean, if you go back and look at Taiwanese economic history, you started like all countries from a very early stage of development, in exporting simple, labor-intensive manufactures. And then you went up spectacularly, successfully, up the value-added chain. Now, China, to a certain extent, well, not to a certain extent, to a considerable extent, is doing exactly the same thing. So even if there were no trade frictions of a major nature, as there are between the United States and China, we'd still be seeing this natural evolution taking place, which opens up space, most obviously, for your country, Senator, and in due course, as India succeeds, I mean, India's economic growth record over recent years has been fantastic. And we've consigned to history that slightly impolite phrase of the Hindu rate of growth. That is no longer an appropriate thing to say about India. And India is now, having always been this vastly powerful country, is now beginning to be a major player on world economic stage, and this will only continue. So the process is underway. Where it stops, I don't know. I mean, there are major challenges here for China. If any of you are interested, I personally regard the best English language expert on the economics of China as Professor Ladi of Peterson Institute. And he wrote an analysis about 3 or 4 years ago, so the data is slightly out of date, but it won't be important, wrong in an important sense. He pointed out that so much for the complaints about Chinese SOEs, state-owned enterprises, being somehow a massive advantage, actually they're a massive disadvantage to the Chinese economy. And if you looked at Chinese exports, I think it was in 2018, roughly 45% of all exports were from Chinese privately owned companies. Roughly 45% of Chinese exports came from multinational corporations, of which Apple was probably the largest, and only 10% from Chinese SOEs. So, you know, this is a very complicated, it's a process, but it is a process, it's underway, and where its endpoint is, we shall just have to wait.
Thank you. Well, any more questions? Yes, the gentleman sitting in the back, please.
Good morning. Micah McCartney from Newsweek. Just have a question for the whole panel, really, including Deputy Minister Tien, if he has time. So on the unfolding crisis in Israel, what do you make of China's relatively muted response to Hamas's attacks? And are there any lessons from the U.S.'s political or military response that might be applied to a potential conflict in the South China Sea or over Taiwan? Thank you.
Do I have anyone want to answer this question first? Kanapathy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take a shot at it. I guess China's response doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, we watched China's response to Russia's, completely unjustified invasion of Ukraine. We continue to watch that response, and I think for China, despite the outward-facing rhetoric, it's never actually about principles, right? That's not what it's about. It's not about sovereignty. It's not about sort of, all the things that China tends to espouse a lot at multilateral forums and things like that. It's ultimately about pure transactional self-interest when push comes to shove. I think there's always a balance for every country. We have to weigh our self-interests against things like, principles that we hold on to. But I think in the case of China, the swing tends to be overwhelmingly in that one direction. Whereas I think for democracies, possibly because, we have to be accountable to our people, that we do, I think, a lot more tend to be responsive to our own words and the things that we profess to believe in, at least.
General.
I think China has been very consistent in its stand with regards to the actions of the West, it has failed to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and now in this war in the Gaza Strip. I think they are, again, not really condemning the Hamas, but telling those antagonists to take it easy and, of course, to stop the conflict. So it has been very consistent there. But when it comes to the South China Sea, they are very aggressive. And in fact, there were 5 claimants in the South China Sea, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Singapore, and China, and Malaysia and China, and Brunei. So, but despite the fact that the 4 nations are objecting to what they're doing in the South China Sea, they continue to do what they want to do. So, in short, the Chinese choose which side to support and which side not to support.
All right. Well, let me make it very clear. The government of R.O.C. Taiwan, in the very first time we condemned any form of terrorist attack. And we were more than happy to join any sanctions were posed by the democracies. And we will keep on doing that, like we did it in the beginning of the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. Taiwan was one of the first countries to get in. We have delivered about 700 tons of relief goods and over $50 million US to those refugees. This is exactly the value of Taiwan. We want to contribute. We want to be a responsible stakeholder in the world communities. Yes. If there's no more question, let me take this occasion to thank the Philippines to begin with. You know, Taiwan is rely on the foreign laborers for our development. And Philippines is one of the 4 countries, they contributed about 150,000 Filipinos working in Taiwan. And without their contribution, I think Taiwan's development would not be so swift, would not be successfully. And thank you for the Philippines. And we will treat each and every Filipinos like we treat our own people. They are under the health cares. They pay exactly the same salary that we pay to our people. So, General, please convey our appreciation to your people. Back to the Philippines. Thank you. Yes, please.
Can I add some more on the Israeli-Hamas conflict? Now, the Philippines, more than any other country in this region, has probably suffered most from terrorism. And we know the effect of these acts, barbarous act. And so our country is one of the first who condemned the Hamas and support the Israelis. Also, we have about 50,000 Filipino workers in Israel. So that's why we support Israel's fight against the terrorist Hamas.
Well, I think, let me see. Well, I think I control the time very good. Well, I think our panelists, they all have provided a wealth of forward-thinking insights. And I'm sure we all have much to take away. It's been an honor for me to facilitate this dialogue and see you all foster even stronger connectivities and partnership among our nations. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me again, thanking our 4 panelists once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the moderator and the panelists for the wonderful discussion. And now I'd like to invite our guests on the stage to move to the center for a photo call. Thank you so much for the wonderful discussion and the insights. So please stand closer and look at the cameras in the front. All right. 3, 2, 1, cheese. All right, give us one more with your thumbs up, please. Thumbs up and look at the cameras. All right, 3, 2, 1, cheese. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause to our panelists and the moderator. And thank you, Deputy Minister Tien, for the wonderful time control. And thank you to the panelists for your contribution.